Order. Sorry, Prime Minister. We are elected members of Parliament. All ministers serve this House, not Sky News and the BBC. So I do hope the message is going back. The ministerial code is not fit for purpose if this continues to happen. So I hope it's going to be used and make sure that ministers take it seriously. So please, as I stated yesterday, matters relating to defence of the realm should always come to this House first.
The unthinkable has just happened inside the House of Commons. What was supposed to be another routine Prime Minister's questions turned into a political ambush, as Nigel Farage grilled a visibly rattled Keir Starmer live on the Commons floor, leaving MPs shouting, the Speaker struggling for control, and the Prime Minister with nowhere to hide. From the very start, the tension was obvious. Farage rose slowly, calm, composed, and smiling. The kind of smile that signals trouble.
Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We at Reform, a party that is alive and kicking, very much enjoyed your speech on Monday. You seem to be learning a very great deal from us. But can I encourage you, please, to go further as a matter of national security? As a matter of national security, over the weekend, an illegal immigrant from Iran, who we believe came by boat, was arrested in the north of England on serious charges of terrorism. Since the speech on Monday, 1,000 young, undocumented young males have crossed the English Channel. Does the Prime Minister agree? Now is the time to declare the situation in the English Channel as a national security emergency.
Reform UK, a party he reminded the House is alive and kicking, had been watching Starmer closely. And today, Farage made it clear this was not a friendly exchange. This was a challenge. He began with a pointed jab. Reform, Farage said, had very much enjoyed Starmer's recent immigration speech, not because it was impressive, but because it sounded suspiciously familiar. According to Farage, the Prime Minister was learning from Reform, borrowing their language, their tone, and their urgency. That alone triggered murmurs across the chamber. But then Farage shifted gears, and the room went quiet. He raised a national security alarm. Over the weekend, he said, an illegal migrant from Iran, believed to have arrived by small boat, had been arrested in the north of England on serious terrorism-related charges. And since Starmer's speech, Farage claimed, 1,000 undocumented young men had crossed the English Channel. Then came the line that landed like a thunderbolt. Does the Prime Minister agree now is the time to declare the situation in the English Channel a national security emergency?
It wasn't my speech, it was the Prime Minister's.
Mr. Speaker, the situation is serious. The last government lost control of the borders. We are taking powers. The Borders Bill, precisely to his point, the Borders Bill is the first bill to give terrorism-like powers to law enforcement, precisely so that we can get in before the crimes are committed, before people get to this country. That's why this is the most far-reaching provision ever for law enforcement to defend and secure our borders. And that's why it is extraordinary that he, of all people, voted against it. And sooner or later he's going to explain it.
Gasps, shouting, MPs leaning forward. The Speaker called for order, but the damage was done. Starmer stood to respond, already looking uncomfortable. He insisted the situation was serious. He blamed the previous government for losing control of the borders. And then he pivoted, hard, to the Border Security Bill. According to Starmer, the bill would give terrorism-like powers to law enforcement, allowing authorities to intervene before crimes are committed, before individuals even reach the UK. On paper, it sounded tough, but Farage wasn't finished, because Starmer's defence came with a fatal flaw, one Farage had already prepared to expose. As Starmer praised the bill, voices rose from the benches, MPs shouted, Labour MPs looked frustrated, Reform MPs smirked. Then Starmer made the mistake. He reminded the House that Nigel Farage had voted against the bill, attempting to turn the attack back on him. Instead, it handed Farage the opening he needed. The Speaker intervened again as the noise level surged. MPs were shouting over each other. The atmosphere was no longer controlled debate. It was chaos. And at that moment, it became clear to everyone watching. This wasn't just about immigration. This wasn't just about legislation. This was about authority, and whether Keir Starmer still had it. And as the chamber descended further into disorder, one question hung in the air. Had Nigel Farage just cornered the Prime Minister, live on national television? The chaos inside the Commons didn't stop after Farage's opening salvo. It intensified. Starmer, usually composed, looked increasingly flustered, shuffling papers and stumbling over his words. The Speaker's gavel barely managed to cut through the din as MPs shouted over one another, some jeering, some pleading for order. Farage pressed on, relentless. He reminded Starmer that the English Channel crisis wasn't hypothetical. It was happening right now, and Britain's national security was at stake. "We're talking about real threats, real crimes, and real people," he said, his voice sharp and unyielding. "And yet," he added, turning to Starmer with a piercing stare, "you stand there, trying to lecture us while failing to act decisively." Starmer tried to respond. "The Border Security Bill," he began, "is the first legislation to give law enforcement powers to prevent crimes before they happen, to protect the country." "Before they happen?" Farage interrupted, pointing at the Prime Minister. "So you're telling this House you're happy waiting until crimes occur to respond? That's not leadership. That's incompetence dressed up as procedure." The Commons erupted. MPs on both sides shouted. Reform UK MPs jeered. Labour MPs banged the desks in frustration. The Speaker, clearly overwhelmed, called repeatedly for calm, but the chamber was a storm of voices and chaos. Farage wasn't done. He pivoted seamlessly from the policy to the optics, to Starmer's credibility. "And let's not forget," he said, "you voted to strip away powers from law enforcement before, yet now you claim this bill gives you the tools you need. People see the contradiction, Mr. Prime Minister. They see the U-turn, the inconsistency, the confusion. You're saying one thing and doing another." The Prime Minister's words faltered. His usual polished delivery cracked. He shuffled through notes, clearly trying to regain control of the narrative. But every line seemed to backfire. Farage had anticipated every answer, cutting him off, highlighting the contradictions, and leaving Starmer with nothing to counter. Then came the final, humiliating blow of this round. Farage reminded the House that while Starmer claimed the bill would protect the country, he had personally voted against key provisions in the legislation. The chamber gasped again. Even some Labour MPs whispered, exchanging uneasy glances. The Speaker intervened once more, raising a hand. "Order! Order in the House!" But the message was lost in the chaos. The Commons had become a theatre of humiliation for the Prime Minister. Every shout, every taunt from the Reform MP chipped away at Starmer's composure. By now it was clear to all present. Starmer was rattled, struggling not just to answer the questions, but to maintain his authority. His voice wavered, his eyes darted nervously, and for the first time in months, the opposition was no longer reacting. They were dictating the pace, the narrative, and the humiliation. And as Farage delivered his closing line for this segment, the chamber erupted once more. "Mr. Prime Minister, the country deserves action, not excuses. Your words cannot hide your inaction." The Speaker banged the gavel again, but it was too late. The narrative had been set. On this day, Nigel Farage had humiliated the Prime Minister live, in front of the nation, and the chaos in the Commons would dominate headlines for days to come. The tension in the House of Commons had reached its peak. Sir Keir Starmer, visibly rattled from Nigel Farage's relentless questioning, attempted to regain his composure. He shuffled papers, adjusted his tie, and tried to answer, but the chamber was unforgiving. MPs were shouting over one another. The Speaker's repeated calls for order barely made a dent. Farage leaned into the spotlight, his voice calm but cutting, as if delivering a surgical strike. "The Prime Minister talks about protecting our borders, but his record speaks louder than his words," he said. 1,000 undocumented young men crossed the Channel this weekend alone. Terrorism and criminal activity are real threats. And yet, Mr. Prime Minister, you stand here and lecture us about powers you opposed just weeks ago. Starmer's mouth opened, closed, and opened again. The words he finally managed were half-formed. We are implementing powers. Implementing, Farage interrupted sharply. "You voted against them. You delayed them. This isn't leadership. This is a charade." The chamber exploded. Reform MPs shouted in approval. Labour MPs slammed desks in frustration. The Speaker's attempts to control the House were drowned out by the chaos. Some MPs stood, gesturing wildly. Others jeered. The Prime Minister, once confident and polished, now appeared cornered, flustered, and defenceless. Farage pressed further, pointing to the national security implications. "This isn't a political debate. It's a matter of life and death, safety and sovereignty. Britain deserves action. Not excuses, not delays, not empty speeches." His words struck like lightning, and the Commons responded with a mixture of gasps, cheers, and angry calls. Starmer, trying to defend himself, faltered. "The Borders Bill gives law enforcement powers. Powers you opposed," Farage shouted, cutting him off mid-sentence. The Prime Minister's face went pale, beads of sweat visible under the bright lights of Westminster. He tried again, but the narrative had already shifted. Every attempt to regain credibility only highlighted the contradictions and failures Farage had so meticulously exposed. The Speaker intervened repeatedly, warning MPs of consequences, but the disorder only intensified. The chamber had become a theatre of humiliation. Even frontbench Labour MPs looked increasingly frustrated, whispering to one another as Farage's words continued to dominate the floor. Farage delivered the final blow, his voice ringing through the chamber. Mr. Prime Minister, the public sees through the words. They see the U-turns, the indecision, the lack of leadership. Britain deserves a Prime Minister who acts, not one who hides behind speeches. The Commons erupted once more. Starmer slumped in his seat, unable to respond. The Speaker banged the gavel, but the damage was done. Headlines would call it Starmer humiliated live at PMQs, and Reform MPs exposed the Prime Minister's failures. As MPs filed out of the chamber, the image of a flustered Prime Minister facing a composed and commanding Nigel Farage would dominate social media and news outlets alike. The political theatre of Westminster had delivered a clear message. Starmer had been grilled, cornered and publicly humiliated, and Reform UK had claimed the day. The Commons session ended, but the aftershocks would continue. Political commentators speculated about Starmer's credibility, while Reform UK celebrated a dramatic victory in Parliament, a live spectacle witnessed by millions, and one that would be remembered for months to come.